Thank you and welcome to this panel. We hope it's going to be a great panel, and also we really hope we're going to have fun together discussing some of the exciting issues that we began to discuss yesterday. So I have the pleasure of introducing my panelists today. To my right is Madame Tien. She currently serves as the Health Minister of the Socialist Republic of Vietnam. In addition to her role as Health Minister, she's also a member of the party's Central Committee of Vietnam and the National Assembly. Prior to serving as Health Minister, Madame Tien was Vice Minister of Health of Vietnam, Director of the Pasteur Institute, and Director of the National Dengue Control Program. Welcome, Minister Tien.
Good morning.
To her right, we have Minister Exavang Bongwichit. I'm sorry, I tried to learn how to pronounce it, but still. He's the current Minister of Health of Laos and also serves as a member of the Central Party Committee. Prior to his role as minister, he served as Deputy Minister for 5 years. He has also held various leadership positions in hospitals in Vientiane, including Director General of Mitapak Hospital, Deputy Director of Hospital Number 1, and Chief of the Pediatric Departments at Mahosat Hospital. Mr. Bongwichit has also served as Lecturer of Medical Science and as the Chairman of the Internal Medicine Department of the National University of Laos. Welcome and thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
And then at the end, I have my friend Suit, and I won't try to even spell your last name. Suit is a senior advisor on disease control at the Ministry of Public Health, Thailand. He has extensive experience in the area of human resources for health and has published widely on the subject. In addition to his role at the ministry, Suit is chair of the Asia-Pacific Action Alliance on Human Resources for Health, and also sits on the board of the Global Health Workforce Alliance as the chair of the Policy and Planning Committee. We have had the pleasure to interact since I was in WHO, and he's a very, very active and passionate advocate from the countries from the South. Thank you, sir. So, yesterday, we really had an opportunity to discuss and to choose what were the issues that people thought were the most important issues for the next century. And we decided to work on the 4, and then we combined into 3 groups. On the first one, of course, there was a big discussion on aging as both an opportunity and a problem. The migration also issue came into discussion because it will be changing the family and societal structures. There was also some discussion on the increasing national control on how people move and how, regardless of this, people are moving, and that creates sometimes an issue because no one is in charge of their health. And then there are some hazards that are related to the migration itself. There was also a discussion on what is the impact on health then, and then what is going to happen as we have an aging population, and we have issues like people retiring in their 60s and then having 25, 30 years more to live. How do we protect the people? How do we get this to be harmonious, to have people contributing to the social potential of the societies. Then in the other group, the new ways of learning, our colleagues were mostly talking about the opportunity that presents to educate massively people from all over the world because of the connectivity and the integration in the world. However, of course, the question is how do you integrate that with a real fulfilling life. After being educated, how do you connect that with really creating more opportunities for people? So what does it mean to have more education? How is that connected to the labor market? And then how that will create more opportunities, in particular for people from disadvantaged societies. The discussion of education as a public good was a very interesting one, and then the connections to the states, to the labor markets, and to others. And then in the panel that we're discussing social and economic convergence, the discussion was basically that apparently the trend right now as it is diverging. So social and economic progress are in a diverging trend. And the question is, what will happen if we don't change this diverging pattern? And then what are the levers for change to make sure that in fact we do so? Other issues that were discussed were, for example, that even though there is a demand for participation of the people and the citizens, there is no guarantee that that will happen in the next century. And then what do we do to guarantee that that in fact happens? And the connections, of course, with having an harmonic social and economic development being essential for equity and sustained health. So those were the issues in the broader picture, and now we are here to try to connect that broader picture with the role of our ministers of health in the reality of countries that basically have limited resources, and they are most of the time responding to very urgent needs and not necessarily to the trends of the next century. So let me begin this conversation, and I really would like to ask Madame Tian, given these complexities that we foresee for the future, how do you see countries working together within regions and globally to really achieve a vision or to realize the vision of healthy societies in the next century? And also, how do you think we could prevent the world of avoid making the same mistakes over and over again? To you, Madam Tian.
Good morning. First of all, I would like to give the congratulations to the Rockefeller for 100th anniversary, and especially organizing the very attractive and a special workshop of thinking of the dreaming of the health in the future. It's quite a new subject. And as you know, from now we look back 100 years ago, about 1913. At that time, we think that the people couldn't predict what about the world now. At that time, we think that the people cannot imagine now we can contact to each other from person to person by for example, for webcam, to talk and to see to each other from the country to the country. So from now, we cannot predict exactly what about situation of the economic, natural situation, economic, social and health situation of in next 100 years, 50 years and 100 years. But basing on 10 trends that the workshop selected, and basing on the 4 topics, for trend that we discussed yesterday by group, we could predict some situation that in next 100 years, the first we shall face with the climate change, with some emerging disease and disaster, not only in country but the region and also at the global level. And the second about the aging population. So at that time, we shall take care, we shall make priority of the life expectation. The life expectation may be not now, maybe 100 years old. And the social policy for the aging population is one thing. And we think not only treatment of disease, but also think about the hair quality, the hair first. So the hair quality, the life expectation is one concerning, and then prevention, and then after that treatment. And also what about the economic and social? At that time we think that economic and social may be more developed than now. But we cannot imagine what's about the economic at that time. And also, of course, the high technology and advanced science will be very developed. And when the science very developed, for example, the people will be isolated, the person will be more isolated from people. And at that time, we can not only apply the virology, immunology, zoology, or nanotechnology, or stem cell, or maybe other high technology and science or biomedical technology will be applied for the life, for the health. And also the type of learning will be different based on the discussion yesterday. So we think that if we want to facing for the challenge as well as the convenient condition in the near future, we think that union is strong. Isolation and stabilization make us weak. So union always strong. And when the country and the world we develop, of course, there are more constraints. Because the constraint, that's the rule for the development. So at that time, we shall face a more complex and more difficulty problem, not in the health, in the economic, natural situation, economic, social, and health issue. So that's why we think that based on the three poles of the strong development, which is the economic pole, social pole, social column, including health and the environment development polar. Basing on three polar for the strong development, after me, I think I imagine, I cannot predict exactly, union and work together will be strong, make Earth very strong. So by any way, we have to work together in the region and in the international level. Now we already have in ASEAN, we have the ASEAN region, ASEAN +3, and in all the world we had the United Nations. And at that time we think that we should work together. And on the health issue, if we are on duty of the health sector of each country, we shall advise the state to join very strongly and connect very strongly with the region and international for by the working with the group, by the workshop, and by organizing the regional and global organization. And always work very close together, even closer now, for facing with the disaster, for example, and emerging disease. It is very it is a pandemic. So if we don't go together, we cannot control, and we cannot be successful. And for the aging population and for the social, and that time we think that we can imagine that maybe at that time the fee for treatment, for hospitalization may be free. But we shall be facing other big problems for the health and for the prevention and for disaster and for the emerging disease. Even the disease we cannot identify the cause, we call uncaused known disease. So by any way, you have to work together. And in the health sector, the health is the most previous of all the society and of the life. So by any way, from Minister of Health, of our colleague here, we shall work very strong, closer together.
Thank you, Madam Thiam. So, you know, it's important what you said, because what you're basically saying is that the world is so interconnected that the health of anyone in the world will affect the health of the others. And then what are the mechanisms to work together? And it's quite important to do so. So let me ask Minister von Wichit, in the scenarios that we had outlined on the first day of the meeting, what is the role of government and ministers of health in the building healthy societies for the next century?
Yeah. Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to congratulate Rockefeller Foundation for the anniversary of 100 years. Yeah. Concerning the question, I agree that it is very hard, and I cannot exactly predict in the future 100 years the world will be, and the role of the government. Before thinking about the next 100 years, for me, we should think about the step by step, you know. For example, in our country and everywhere, maybe, we have the 5-year plan, 1-year plan, and next 5-year plan, you know. And nowadays in my country, we are talking about the health reform. Mm-hmm. So in our plan for health reform, there is phase 1 is mainly for achieving MDGs. I mean 2015, we try to achieve the MDG. It is the first phase of health reform strategy. Then the next phase is second phase, is from 2020. We should have one system of health insurance. We try to have the UC in the phase 3, mean 2025, with the improvement of health system. I mean health system strengthening in all phases. So now we have a plan or strategy to 2025. We don't have yet the plan for the next 100 years. So I cannot imagine. Anyway, I think the role of government nowadays is very important for achieving UC, universal coverage, especially in the developing country or underdeveloped country. If we don't have the contribution from the government budget, we don't achieve universal coverage in our country or in developing country. I don't know in the developed country. So nowadays, the role of government is very important. But in the next 100 years, I don't know exactly what kind of government will be. I don't know. And maybe you don't know also. So the role of government, what should be? I think for the developing country now, the government play very important role for UC, for example. But in the future, I think the role of the government will be like a coordinator. For the coordination, collaboration will be play this role, not monotone, you know. So maybe my answer, but another answer maybe in the floor. So thank you.
Thank you, Minister. So, Suit, one of the things that one could see is that we are discussing some of the discussions that we are having are really under the scenario of the current century. And then there are at least two things that really I'm a bit puzzled. One, of course, is the issue that health production is a very different thing than health care. And if we're talking about producing healthy societies in the future, then what type of configuration of this, if you could say, expanded health sector or expanded health system should be put in place? And the second, which really strikes me, is that we are discussing a world and we are saying aging will be an issue for the next century. But right now we are having kids that are growing in a world that is still a young world, but will be becoming older in an aging world. And the configuration for those kids is going to be quite different. And I just want to ask you, how do you see how do we produce health in this very complex scenario as opposed to take care of people over the next century? You said you wanted a question. Easy one.
Thank you, Janet. Before I left my house, my youngest son, asked me, "Dad, where are you going again?" I said, "Oh, this time I'm going to Beijing because a very visionary foundation called Rockefeller Foundation want me to dream with them the world in the next 100 years." He looked at me with surprise and said, "Do you think we still have the world at that time?" This is the immediate reaction from a real young generation. So, Janet, your question is sometimes easy, but on the other way, it's not that easy or not that difficult at the same time. The world is totally different. The gap between the top and the bottom is extremely different. And yesterday, Mickey Chopra, you mentioned about your UNICEF survey, right? Oh, Rory, sorry. See, wealth gap is the biggest factor that affect lives, well-being. And when we say, what should we do for health in the next century? I would like to bring all of us back to Sutiyana. Health is well-being. Health is not merely the absence of disease and infirmity, it's well-being. But what we are doing now, Director General Margaret Chan, has she ever talked about well-being? What she talked to us through the video, NCD disease. I'm not saying that she's wrong, she'll kill me. But this is usual. You look at Chris Murray, IHME. He's one of the best brains in the world. I challenge him. You try to measure health by burden of disease. But health is well-being, not merely the absence of disease. Why don't you measure well-being? Why you measure only the disease? And all the honorable ministers here, including the two honorable ministers here, Minister Agnes, we are all from medical field. we learn diseases. So how are we going to move from disease to health? Actually, more than 60 years ago, our ancestor has already informed us that health is well-being in the definition of WHO Constitution. So we need to come back to Suthianand, what he said yesterday, which means that we need to put health not in the hand of doctor, nurses, pharmacists, or dentists, like many of us here, including me. Health must be the hand of the active citizen. Now I come to President Ricardo, mentioned yesterday. You cannot depend on the government, although I am still in the government as a civil servant. But the government is usually temporary. It's very rare that you have minister like Minister Eksawang who from the bureaucratic become deputy minister, become minister, or Minister Kim Tian or Minister Agnes. I used to have 5 ministers in 2 years. 5 ministers, 2 years. How can I expect him or her to look 100 years? So we can even the U.S. president, even he stay in office for 8 years, he cannot look for 100 years. It has to be people with vision, people or organization that is not in the government, active citizen who create foundations, private, not-for-profit organization like Rockefeller Foundation, like many other foundations. It is the active citizen that will determine the future of the world. And it is the active citizen that when the world collapses, they'll find a way out. If you watch so many movies, most of the time the movie tells you how the government failed, and some active citizen rise up to save the world. So I would like to sincerely thank President Ricardo in pointing this out to us yesterday, that we need participatory democracy. We cannot just 4 years go to the ballot, the voting ballot, and vote and then disappear. The country belongs to us. The country belongs to the active citizen. But it's a pity because of the wealth gap. Most of the people are just subject of government. They cannot consider themselves as active citizens. So one of the issues that I would like to propose to you, Janet, as the managing director of Rockefeller Foundation, we need to work together to create stronger active citizens all around the world for the next 1,000 years, not 100. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me just expand a bit on what you said and ask Madam Tim. You said that you think that there is a very important role of the international governance institutions for the next century. Mm-hmm. However, when we look at what is happening, what we see is that there is a bit of an issue there, because the structures, the international organizations, governance organizations that we have put together, in particular for health, are not necessarily working the way or what we envisioned it would happen with them when we created them as an international community. How do you see, what are the issues there that you see could help to transition that international governance to a governance that in fact produce health?
As discussed this panel, we cannot predict what situation of the natural situation, economic and as well as the social situation of at that time of in next 100 years. At that time, we don't know if the government each country exists, or there's other model of the organization of each country. And we think that at that time we are imagining, just imagining. Maybe at that time we had a very top, very global governing organization. It played the roles for the coordination, organization, and to lead all the some region and all the one together for the economic development, social development, including health sector, and also facing to the climate change and disaster. Because in next 100 years, we cannot imagine what about the natural situation. Maybe at that time, some countries flooding all the time. Basing on the prediction of the international organization, Vietnam is one of 5 countries will be the most serious of flooding. And maybe some country disappear. Very bad imagining, not disappear, but they cannot live in this area. They have to move to the other continent. So we think that the organization of the governing will be changed. At that time, maybe the very like a communist. It means everything is a common and sharing together. So in the health sector, we think that at that time the health will be more interesting, will be more priority, maybe top high priority, higher than economic and higher than the other. Because if the people living is very important. If the people die, it's nothing. Or if the people will be not well-being, it's nothing. So as Dr. Suwit mentioned that well-being is the most important and health is very important. So we think that at that time, all organizations, international organizations, will be work together, and the first top priority, the health and well-being human. Because at that time maybe economic and infrastructure. We hope with the optimistic view. At that time, maybe we don't have the poor people. We don't have a big difference from the rural and urban area. So the top priority is that the health, higher than economic development, higher than the social, the other element. So by any way, the country work together to country and the region work together. And WHO, at that time, we think that, excuse me now, maybe at that time WHO is too small for the health sector. At that time we have very top proof of all the global, of the all international, of the whole world for the top priority, the health. So at that time we die already. But if we under the ground we put proud of that. We work for the health sector is the most top priority and most precious field of all the life of the world.
Thank you. So, Minister Bongwichit, one of the things that, of course, is always there is this increasing health, digital, and technology divide, and in particular between developed and developing countries. And it doesn't look like it will decrease in the future. In particular, of course, because there are huge gaps in resources to acquire the technology, and the technology cost is the same all over the world. So how do you see, and what alternative do you envision to decrease this increasing divide between developed and developing countries in the next century?
Thank you. It is an interesting question. For me, maybe for another also, we should have a value. I mean, solidarity, equity, equality. We should promote before thinking to another field like technology. For example, if we are talking about equality, so the development should be equality also. Yeah. In the one country or in the world. And I can dream, and everybody can dream that next 100 years the world should be the world of solidarity, the world of equality, and technology also. If in this value or in this idea, technology, if equality, it will be useful for all. I mean, for example, no more developed or underdeveloped or developing country or something, no different. It's the world of equality, solidarity. Again, it is many speakers already talking about that issue. We dream about this world, about this society. Then, if we can reach like this word of solidarity, equality, we don't afraid about the technology. But the problem is that what should we do to achieving this word of solidarity is the big issue for thinking. Not for the medical doctor, but maybe for the, I don't know who better thinking about this. Maybe everybody. As I said, that the role of government in the next 100 years not to be the monopoly of everything. For example, health is everybody should be ownership of their own health, for example. And health is an issue of the equality, solidarity. Why in health reform plan we should achieve universal coverage? Is that we will promote the equality again, solidarity. For example, health insurance is solidarity, equality, equity. In some country, like in Laos, we promote the equity fund. I mean, the poor people can access to the health facility, to the health service for free. Like the rich people, for example. So it is my short answer.
Thank you. Thank you. Of course, another issue that was discussed yesterday is this issue of creating massive education and massively educated the people. And then the question is, of course, how do we connect that massive education with really solving some of the health problems or creating health? And what is the role of the universities and what is the responsibilities of the university to connect what they are doing with the real life of people, at least in health, and with the organization that in fact are responsible for taking care or producing health in the country. I really would like to get your views on that, Sue, before we open to the people questions.
You asked us to consider the role of organization that may not be able to play that role. Like the government, expecting the government to think 100 years. University, expecting the university to play this role of using IT facility to educate, expanding the education. I don't think the university can do that. We have to be realistic with the universities. Most universities now are trying to get as much money as they can, including professors. At least I can see from my country, or the country where my daughter studied. Of course, there are many good universities trying to produce, generate knowledge. But most of the knowledge they generate hang around in the journal, in Richard Lancet, in Fiona BMJ. The question is how to bring that knowledge into real practice. Not very many universities engaged in the delivery research, implementing research, evaluation research. Yesterday, we heard about the so-called MOOC. This is the first time I've heard about it. I thought, oh, this is something new. I have to be to listen very carefully. MOOC, massive, open, online course, right? After I have listened to it, oh, this is another way of doing business. Because it is a course. What does it mean when you say a course? A course means that you have some teachers design the course within certain education institute, and then open a classroom, deliver the course, whether it is face-to-face classroom or online classroom. I'm sure that if this moves well, some university will do business on that. Actually, right now, many universities are doing that, and it may become a big business. Having said that, I'm not saying that big business is bad. Business is much more efficient than the government. We know that, we know them well. In making profit, in getting things done. But are we focused on the new way of learning only on this MOOC? The course that designed by someone, and then you enter into the online, and then you study, and then you get a certificate. I can ask my son to do that. I get my certificate under my name. But new ways of learning should go beyond this kind of online classroom or face-to-face classroom. It should address my problem, my current problem. When I'm growing rice and there are pests, there are insects, what should I do at the spot? How can I not use chemicals and still can grow rice? That's the new way of learning. The new way of learning must address my question. I should be able to go to the internet, some search engine, and type in, and then in 5 minutes I get the answer to the problem that I am facing at that time. I'm not saying that MOOC is not good. It's a part of new way of learning, but we should not focus our new way of learning only on that. New way of learning is the learning to be an active citizen. My dear Janet, I come back to what President Ricardo mentioned yesterday, participatory democracy. And in the health field, if you have time, I would like to invite you to Thailand. In December each year, we have a National Health Assembly where we allow government sector, ministry, and civil servants, and those who prepare for policy, to work with academia, professional, and active citizen to form public policy, healthy public policy every year. This is under the so-called National Health Act. We go through the whole year process like the World Health Assembly do their agenda setting and the draft resolution. But we do different from the World Health Assembly in one important aspect. We don't allow lawyer in the room. The World Health Assembly, the UN, is actually totally controlled by the lawyer. Lawyer always stay there and interpret everything that you talk. Not only the rules and regulations, even text in the resolution, sometimes you need lawyer to interpret. You cannot go that direction. So UN is like government. You need them. You need the government. You need decent government. But they are not adequate. We need participatory democracy. So extensive education should support participatory democracy, and it should support activity of the active citizen. His Majesty the King of Thailand used to say that we need to think like ngo. Ngo in Thai language means stupid. But actually, when His Majesty say ngo, His Majesty mean ngo, mean NGO. NGO, ngo, pronounce ngo. But in the same pronunciation in Thai language mean stupid. So some Thai people may feel that, what is His Majesty talking about? But what His Majesty mean ngo, mean NGO. And he himself creates so many foundations, private foundations, which have huge implications on rural development to help the poor, to reduce the gap between the rich and the poor. So the Rockefeller Foundation is one example. There are many other foundations. Rockefeller Foundation is one example. 100 years. You move another 100 years and with many more foundations. And you are asking us to work together, right? It's impossible, Janet.
Wow.
It's impossible. We have to be realistic. You look at bacteria, amoeba. When the environment is conducive, they never stay together. They're divided very fast and then spread all over everywhere in freedom. Only when the environment is bad, they cling together, they insist for survival. You see the sardines in the ocean. Millions of them together because they know that that's the best way for them to survive because of the threat from from something else. You look at the country in the world that has the strongest solidarity, least wealth gap, Japan. Why Japanese people work together so well? It's not that they are there from the first day of Japan. But if you go to Japan, you see the 4 islands. 80% of the land are mountain, non-habitable. Only 20% habitable. All the rivers are very short, right from the mountain down to the sea. If Japanese people don't work together to build small dam and share the water, work together in a close village, they never survive. Because of the surrounding, the environment, force them to work together. So human beings can work together only after, really work together, seriously work together, maybe only after the Third World War. I'm serious. Before the Second World War, you see the League of Nations. After the Second World War, you have the UN. And the UN dream for the next 100 years. What is the situation of the UN now? I stop here.
Thank you. So let me open for questions, comments, or discussion points from the public. Yes, please.
So first of all, I just want to thank you, all of you, today and yesterday, as a trustee of Rockefeller and someone who does not have a healthcare background. It has been particularly informative to me. I have been in business for nearly 40 years, so that's going to be the construct within which I'm going to make my comments. There are three words that I really like to hone in on. 1, participation, 2, knowledge, and 3, technology. And the reason that I've chosen those 3 is, again, reflecting on all the commentary of the past few days, is that we live in a different world, and nothing to say, and I'm over 60, so I include myself in the group, but we have a room full of people who, many of us, have been around for a while. And I think when we want to look forward, I think about Dr. Sewett's son's comment. Are we going to be here in 100 years? And how many thinkers do we have who force us to look at things differently? And I say that from my business background because I grew up in marketing where we did a lot of advertising, and in those days, we delivered the message to consumers. And we live in a world today where the consumers are delivering the messages to us. And I think that's the first lesson to learn around participation. It is not what we say, it is what they are saying to us. And so how do we use that reality as we move forward today, whether it's in selling products or in healthcare? And so there are several examples to me which are indicative of the fact that that is the reality that we should base our future dreaming on, that participation. And we see that today, whether it's Nike and developing a band where you can track your caloric consumption, your activity, you are monitoring. Your health becomes part of your control. Rachel talked about GE. I serve on the GE board. The technology ideas that are on the table for consumers to really control their health care and manage it is immense. Because that's the reality, and I listened to the head of WHO talk about the fact that the shortage of healthcare workers, 4 million, that's the first time, it's probably knowledge to all of you, but to hear that number was an incredible surprise. If that's the reality, then we have no choice but to develop mechanisms so that people can be participative in their health care. So that's the knowledge and participation. The third part is technology, and my colleague Strive can probably talk to this a bit more. But we have the tools and are developing the tools because people have mobile phones. How are we thinking smartly about how we use technology to help us address the healthcare challenges? As the flu spread in the US this year, the data was collected by people sharing the information on the internet with each other. That's how the data came in, and we knew where the outbreaks were. It wasn't the healthcare professionals reporting it, it was individuals. That's the new reality. That's how we have to think about the future. And I fear sometimes, and it's not just true of this group, but many, we stay stuck in a framework. We've got to break out of being stuck in a framework in order to really dream about where the future is taking us.
Thank you. Floor is open. Yes.
I totally agree with a healthy dose of skepticism, and I do believe our gentleman from Thailand would make a wonderful stand-up comedy. However, I think your cynical views of the government, of new ways of learning, can be counterproductive, if not dangerous. I think a common vision of this participants of this room is trying to turn our dreams into reality, right? Not turning our dreams into nightmares. To do that, we have to be mindful of and work with the constraints, the natural and the institutional constraints. I don't know what will happen in 100 years, but I can predict with certain dose of certainty is in 50 years, we have to live with the reality of nation states, where the government has a very important role to play. So I want to offer comments and examples of how to work with the government and make the government work better for us rather than against the view of government versus us. Believe me, having lived in the United States, I'm totally sold on the people power. You know, I'm not immune from the Hollywood movies, you know, what the people can do and rise up and so on and so forth. But we have to work with the government. I wish Minister Chen Zhu can be here today to share with you the important impact, the historical impact of the Healthy China 2020, the first 10-year plan, health plan, Chinese government put together that really laid out a very clear roadmap how the country should go forward in terms of taking care of the major risk factors affecting public health, the major action plans, and so on and so forth. And China is carrying that plan forward, besides the healthcare reform. Now, I also like to extend an open invitation to everybody interested in this room. Come to Wenchuan County, late October this year, in Sichuan province. That's the earthquake county in China, where you will see not just the empty talks, but real examples of a comprehensive healthy county project. Okay, we worked with the local government to create a three-pillared healthy county model: healthy economy, healthy culture, and the universal coverage through the mobile health system and so on and so forth. And the county government created a health committee, consisted of all the departments of the county government, headed by the mayor. So the mayor is acting as the local health minister, not the health bureau director. So that's the example we would not have been possible realized without the strong support and working relationship with the local government. So I really like to suggest we should highlight the need and the more effective ways of working with the government and educating our future youngsters, the value of public service, rather than, empty talks of people power, the government is no good and the university is no good, yeah? So I like to see that our dialogues and conversations are construed in a more constructive way. Thank you.
Thank you. I think you wanted to say something, sir? Here, please.
You mentioned immigration, but the distinguished panelists have not touched on this in the sense that 100 years ago, when this dream started, Rockefeller, nation states were uniform. Even the United States was not so mixed as today. What we've seen in these last 100 years, particularly through the United States, heterogeneity. And it does look like heterogeneity in the future may well be the norm rather than the exception. That then may well create new pressures in terms of, the President has already gone, in terms of participatory involvement, and the trustees refer to that too, that health demand is probably going to be, where standards are going to be demanded by this heterogeneous population much more effectively than now or in the past when we were totally homogeneous. I'm not too sure whether Africa is prepared for that.
Thank you. Agnes, please. Mr. Agnes.
Good morning, everybody. So I think that this is a great meeting. Rockefeller Foundation brought us here to dream. what is already unconventional. It's the first time, as my colleague said, my maximum plan is 2020, like China and like many countries. And already it's a nightmare, because we need a budget for something we don't know, 2020. But your provocation is provocative, isn't it? It's fun. The theme is provocative, and you provoke us, just say, it's impossible. I just want you to brought you 200 years ago. Life expectancy, maximum 40 years for the most healthy part of this earth. Everybody was poor, except maybe a couple of Maharaja and a couple of people in the world. And if we draw the world like this, 4 boxes, poor and sick, healthy and rich, all the world was in the box down on the left. And now, whatever. All the world have moved slowly to the box on top on the right. China is there. But if we take a piece of China, some of the pieces of China are still down. Africa, still down. But Africa has moved too. So please dream and be optimistic. Don't follow the provocative friends you have there. But he's right, because if he doesn't provoke us, we will not think out of the box how to say it. 200 years from now, can you imagine somebody say, 1 person, 1 vote? They will say, what is this language? Now, try to say in the world, 1 man or 1 woman, 1 vote. It's not right. You will be blacklisted, isn't it? The world is changing faster than one would think. The world is moving in the right direction. Whatever you think, it provokes us, it's just for us to do better. And the participation, tell me who is not thinking about that. Is the new way of governance. Each and every country think about how to do it. And whatever, you will never see a society, even for insects, without governance. Isn't it? So we will still be governed. But the rule of governance will change. We don't know how, because 100 years is a provocation. Rockefeller Foundation. But we will still be governed. There will be more participation. We will reach there through education, because no true participation without education. No education, new way of education. I think university need money, yeah. There are some who are asking a lot of money. But whatever, what Rulio told us yesterday, it's a new way for massive education. No more elites educated. Spread education across the world. That's the only way to make people participating, knowing what they are participating to. So, I came very optimistic, and I'm going even more optimistic. And why? Because he provoked us.
Thank you, Agnes. We have a few times, so you have the last word, and then I'll ask our panelists for a brief final intervention to each of them.
Okay. I just have a few sentences as a comments. When we think about the future, the health of the human being, maybe the first thing we should figure out is what is the most powerful driving force for the changing in the next 100 years. And I believe, that is science, technology, and innovation. We cannot imagine without, antibiotics, penicillin, we can still be here, right? So with, this advancement in the technology, like, stem cells and the regeneration technology, and, the IT, this organ transplantation, this targeted therapies, we can totally change, the world, the human beings' health situation in the future. So under this science, technology, and innovation, to support, this innovation, that is, education and organization. So as PMC, we're trying to reform, our education model, not only, teaching knowledge to the students, instead, we're teaching them how to, be creative, be innovative, a much better model. So, and also I think, the governments and the NGO like Rockefeller Foundation, and all the, active, citizens, as you mentioned, this we can, in a much better way to organize it together, to join together, to support, a more cost-effective, more efficient, innovation and science technology development. So this will certainly, change our way and making a much better future of health world. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. So, my dear friend, you are going to be the first one with the final remarks.
Honorable participant, I would like you to open the program of this meeting. You will not see my name here in this session. Why I'm here? Someone came to me and said, "Hey, Suhit, please help us make this meeting lively and provocative." I think I have been successful, Janet. Thank you.
Minister, please.
Thank you. So, for me, if I can dream, but we can dream, yeah. Every night we can dream also. Dream about many things. If I can dream again, I dream for the solidarity again, equality of the world in the next 100 years. This one. That's one.
Thank you. Madam Chiang.
Thank you. As Dr. Esteban mentioned, dream is dreaming. So, in my opinion, I always think of the optimistic view. In 100 years, we think that the world will be better. It will be more equity, more democratic, and more development. And so that the most priority of the world is life, the quality of life. And of course, we shall by any way work together, not only in the regional level, but also in the global level. But because union is strong for facing all the most difficulty and constraint, and we hope we be more successful in the world, and especially in the health sector. Thank you.
Thank you. So many thanks to all of you for your presence and participation, and please, to our panelists, please join me to give them a big applause. Many thanks.